foreign minister and later the foreign secretary go? It's in the run-up to Secretary of State's visit.
We had a terrific meeting this morning, both with the Foreign Affairs Minister as well as the Foreign Secretary. I will see National Security Advisor Menon later today and the Deputy of the Planning Commissioner, Alawalia. So it is just a terrific set of meetings here in India, as it always is, as good friends always have, a comprehensive, deep relationship. You know, in the last year, there have been 42 senior meetings between the U.S. and India, let alone many, many subgroup meetings.
So in these few hours, you're packing from economy to strategic affairs to diplomacy, all of that and...
All of that and more. There are really four pillars when we look at the breadth of the relationship. Global economic, which is very important because we all want India to prosper, the United States to prosper, the world economy to prosper. Global security dialogue, which really gets to how the U.S. and India are working together, not only regionally, but all over the world for peace and security. Regional cooperation. India has really been a leader in ensuring the transition and stability in Afghanistan and the region as a whole, economically and in terms of security, and energy, which is so important to all of us.
The strategic partnership. One key area, of course, is the still a little bit of outstanding issue of civil and nuclear deal between India and US. So any progress on that?
We are very committed to the development of our civil nuclear relationship. We made tremendous strides over the last years, and I would suspect that when the strategic dialogue happens, we will make even further progress. You know, it's interesting. Secretary Kerry, who will be coming here at the end of June for the strategic dialogue, came here at a point when the civil nuclear deal didn't look like it was going to get through. He was a United States Senator at the time. He came, he met with everyone in Indian society and in the government. He went back home and he became a bipartisan, strong advocate for the civil nuclear deal. So I know he will want to see it take one more step in its realization, and I'm sure that will occur.
And the other big area, of course, is what US is keen, as we see it here, to push its strategic defense sales. Already a big market, India, $9 billion or so. So going forward, will that be also on the table? Was that issue also discussed?
Very much on the table, very much discussed. Important for India's economy, important for the United States economy. Deputy Secretary of Defense Ash Carter, along with National Security Advisor Menon and others in the Indian government, are trying to move forward on this defense trade. And you know, the interesting part is there is a new surveillance aircraft that is going to be delivered to the Indian Navy. You purchased 8. The first one has been on-time delivery, and in fact the Indian Navy got it before the US Navy did.
Now on the issue of energy, that also is work in progress, but we believe that the US Department of Energy has, in principle or more than that, okayed the sale of liquefied gas?
More than that, the Department of Energy has announced that there will be sales of LNG to non-FTA countries. It's a very transparent process. One can in fact go to the Department of Energy website and see, I think it's 16 possible deals and the order in which they will be considered.
We have our own interests in Iran. It's been a partner in so many ways in the regional setup. Is there any possibility of another waiver happening for more Indian oil imports?
Well, you know, the issue around Iranian oil is not a U.S. issue. It's an international community issue. Because the international community, and India has very much been part of that, because India is a non-proliferation leader and has just a perfect record on non-proliferation, has said to Iran that it must answer the questions of the international community about its nuclear program. We want negotiations to work, but while we are working on the diplomacy side, we also want to say to Iran, you're going to pay a cost of being further isolated if you do not answer the questions. And reducing the purchase of Iranian oil is one of those sanctions. India has really come through. I know this is difficult in terms of energy security for India, but India has really come through in reducing those imports. All of those sanctions can be lifted. It is in the hands of Iran to make that happen.
Now, one view in India which is held is that the Secretary of State, John Kerry, is a little too soft on Pakistan.
Well, I think that what India needs to know is that there is no stronger advocate for a strong U.S.-India relationship than John Kerry. Secretary Kerry, when he was a senator, also led the first trade delegation from the U.S. Congress to India. He is a tremendous believer in economic development. He's been a leader on clean energy and climate change, on non-proliferation as chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He knows many people in this wonderful country.
The concern is also in some quarters that he may lean on India to start the dialogue with Pakistan without actually taking into account and address India's concerns on terror.
Well, I think that Secretary Kerry believes that how that goes forward is up to India. That's not up to the United States. So how India moves forward on its relationship with Pakistan is India's choice, what the pace of that is, what it looks like. And we're very respectful of India's choices in that regard.
And talking about Pakistan, there's a new regime there which will take over soon, and the topic and the subject of the American drone policy somehow just never goes away from the front pages of the headlines.
Well, I think that we saw that yesterday, Thursday, hard for me to keep my time zones right when I travel, President Obama gave a speech not only about our drone policy, but our counterterrorism policy, and all of the tools that we have to use, diplomacy, development, security, the whole range in the toolbox to deal with counterterror. But he did address the drone program, and this was really a speech where he was talking principally to the American people and saying this is a tool. It should not be used very often. We much prefer, if we're trying to address a particular terrorist, to capture that terrorist, because then we can interrogate him or her and find out more about the terror networks that might put American lives at risk and other people's lives at risk. But there are occasions when drones are an effective tool in that broad toolbox, and that America should do that in a transparent way with respect to the sovereignty of a state, in consultation with our partners in the region as well as in the country itself, but it should be something we use infrequently and in a transparent manner.
Afghanistan is very central to the Indian scheme of things, of course very important from Washington perspective as well. But some Indians think that in the hurry to stick to the schedule of 2014 withdrawal, the Americans may just outsource their security strategy to Islamabad.
Well, I think the United States has a long record of pretty much not outsourcing their security to anyone except ourselves. I think every country takes its own security very seriously, and well, you know, we are going to withdraw most of our forces, but we will still be quite present as diplomats, as aid workers. We will have some forces still present to help train and to deal with counterterrorism. We will be in close consultation with India and with others in the region, but most particularly with India, to ensure regional stability.
Is it a difficult balancing act between Islamabad and Delhi all the time, really?
Well, you know, it isn't about just a balancing act between India and Pakistan. India is our dear partner and friend. We have a long and broad and deep relationship. Of course, we have a relationship with Pakistan as well. But India has a relationship with Pakistan also, and one that India and Prime Minister Singh has worked hard to try to take steps forward and open up some of the economic possibilities for cross-country trade. So there are lots of pieces to this puzzle, but for us, and I think it'll be quite apparent in the strategic dialogue in terms of the Americans who will come here to India at the end of June for that dialogue, is representative of the broad and deep partnership we have with India, quite unlike almost any other country on the face of this earth.
So much of talk about good Taliban, bad Taliban, the not so violent Taliban, the not so fundamentalist Taliban. What's your take? Because again, there is a lot of concern on that issue.
Of course, there's a lot of concern by everyone on that issue. President Karzai very much would hope that there could be some reconciliation with Taliban. That reconciliation is based on some premises about safety, security, peace, and the end of violence. As you know, the Secretary had a meeting in Brussels with Afghanistan, Pakistan, the U.S., about whether, in fact, that process of reconciliation could go forward. People went away with some homework to do.
But Indians do sometimes feel that they are left out of the plot vis-a-vis Afghanistan when the when the big powers of the world sit on some high table?
Well, you know, I consider India a big power. India is a big power not only here but all over the world, at the United Nations, as part of the G20, in virtually every multilateral organization that matters in this world. And it is very important for the United States to stay in very close consultation with India. We can never not do that well enough. And every day we try to improve that consultation because if this region is going to succeed, if the world is going to succeed, India is going to be at the center of that. And we are very grateful that they'll be at the center of that as a partner with the United States.